Welcome to Well Rounded. I'm your host, Tiffany Parker. Oh my goodness, it has been several weeks since I've done an episode. Why? Because January was a freaking doozy. That's why. So we're going to talk about it because I have a lot of things I want to say. And I was going to record last week, but guess who got the flu? Yes, I'm going to talk about it some more. I still have a cough and some like chest congestion and stuff. And so that kind of takes a while to clear out. And so my throat is still a little bit scratchy and not quite as clear as it usually is. And I can feel it. If there are weird pauses or cuts or whatever, it's probably because I'm coughing and I had to cut them out. So anywho, much to discuss though. Very, very excited to talk about all of the things, give a little life update, and talk about some fun things. So first things first, these are my notes from last week that I'm looking at. And so I'm ill, but I just want to talk about last week. Yeah. We're 2 weeks past that now. So first thing first, I want to talk about my freaking car. My family already knows this whole saga, but I'm going to tell you because there's a lot to unpack here. Okay, so first of all, what a journey it has been. So I drive something called a Kia Cadenza. Super fancy dancy, I know. But it is a luxury vehicle that Kia no longer makes. And didn't know that when I bought that, because when I was car shopping, I didn't think to look like, hey, is this car manufactured still? Did not cross my mind once when I bought it. And so I love it though. It's really nice. It has a big engine. That's a big deal for me. I need some get up and go, especially in the state of Utah where not a single person knows how to merge onto a freeway. Oh, kills me. But yeah, it's been a journey with this car. Okay, and I got it with really low mileage purposely. It's fully paid off, things like that. So it's really nice to not have to worry about car payments. It has all of the things that I needed because the car I had before that was pretty old. It was 2007. So I like jumped 10 years because my car's a 2017. So jumped 10 years in technology, which is really exciting. However, things have been happening. So there have been a couple times where just weird things have happened with my car. So I always get oil changes before any road trip or after a road trip, like a long one. And I get it done fairly regularly. You're supposed to do that with your car. It's good for it. And things like that. So I'm always really good about that. But then after a couple times of getting my oil changed, I started to have these leaks. And I assumed it was an oil leak. And we took it to the shop in Arizona that my family likes. Hortons is what they're called. I'm just going to give you their name because it's going to be easier for this whole story. And so we took them. I was driving home for like Christmas or Thanksgiving or something. This was a couple years ago. And took it to Hortons to go look at because they're actually trustworthy and they don't gouge you on prices and all that stuff. So they said that my oil filter was crushed. And so apparently one of the Jiffy Lubes that I had been to previously had done messed up. So that was fun. So they got that fixed, really expensive. Then I got stranded on the side of the road in California because I had hit a piece of retread tire. My oldest brother is a trucker, and so he said that they call those gators. And so they're like the pieces of rubber on the side of the road that are kind of curly and look like a tire. It's just tire retread that like someone just like patched onto an old tire. It's a horrible idea. I don't know why it's legal at all. But I hit one of those and I didn't see it because I don't usually run over those. I usually swerve or whatever. But I hit a big piece of one. And so what happened is I was going fast enough because it was like, I think I was going like 85 or something. I think the speed limit was 75 of that highway that I was on the way to California. And I hit it. I didn't see it, I guess, because it was kind of dark. But I hit it and it got caught in my passenger side wheel well, and then I like heard this big boom, and so I pulled over and I looked at stuff, And we thought it was a flat tire because the tire looked a little low and it looked kind of squished a little bit. My tire didn't explode or anything, but it looked kind of just low on air. And so we thought it was a flat tire. And so I know how to change my tire. And so I got all the stuff out, but one of my bolts I learned this at this moment on the side of the road in the middle of nowhere on the way to California, that one of my tire, what's it called? Bolts? It's not a bolt. Oh my gosh, it's going to come to me later. One of my tire bolts is stripped. And so could not get the lug nut. That's what it is. Lug nut. Could not get one of the lug nuts off. And then I have a special lug nut that has a special key on it so that people can't like steal your tires and stuff. That's a thing, apparently. And so anyways, so I could not get the tire off. So I'm like calling my dad and my brothers and stuff like that. And I'm like, I can't get it off. And I'm like jumping on it. I'm like using physics and leverage and all sorts of stuff as much as I can. Can't get it off. I was only about 3 hours away from our resort that we stay at every summer in California. And so my brother and my dad come, they can't get it off either. We test things, we pull out the piece of, there's like a piece of like plastic or material that's kind of hanging out a little bit and it's hitting my tire. And so my brother just is like, let me try something. And he just pulls it out and it's fine. And turns out the tire is not flat after all. But with that piece of material that came out, there go all of my, like half of my electronics. And so I turn on my car and it lights up like a Christmas tree. And so my power steering is gone. My cruise control is gone. All of these warning lights are on. Lots of things, but it drives well, all in all. So we take it to a shop that's close by in California. Get that fixed. Very expensive. And so anyways, fast forward now. I drove it home for Thanksgiving, this last Thanksgiving, and it was fine there and back. I drive home for Christmas, okay? Drive home for Christmas, and about an hour and a half in, my engine starts overheating, and it's beeping at me, and it's flashing on the dashboard, and all that stuff, and I'm like, oh crap. So I pull over. I'm in Fillmore, Utah, by the way, which is nowhere. Okay. It is one of the many, many small towns on the way to Arizona that has nothing. Also, to make matters worse, it's Sunday. So everything is closed. So my brother helps me out and calls and just does some Googling and stuff. I'm waiting for my engine to cool off. My hood is up. I wait for everything to cool off. I checked my coolant. It was full because I filled it the day before, and I have extra coolant in my trunk. And so coolant was good. I was like, the coolant levels are fine. So I don't know why it's overheating, because that's like what coolant does. You know what I'm saying? And so I sit for an hour, let it cool off, check all the fluids, check all of the coolant fluids, because there's one that you really shouldn't check if your engine's hot. So I wait for everything to cool off for an hour. I chill, shoot the breeze, whatever. And all of that's fine. So we take it to... I'm able to kind of putt-putt. I put my flashers on. I'm going like 20 miles an hour on a 75-mile-an-hour highway. And I'm just like putt-putting to this 24-hour auto shop that I called, and they said to just try and get there. It was about 15 minutes away. So I get there and they think that the thermostat is bad. Didn't know cars had a thermostat. So now you know, cars have a thermostat, and that is what tells the engine like, hey, it's time to release the fluid to cool off your engine. And sometimes you can hear like the rushing of fluids and stuff when that happens. So they think it was the thermostat. What they described as how they described how a thermostat works, I was like, okay, well, that would make sense. If my thermostat had gone bad, why it would be overheating, like it all made sense. Okay, so... but they have to get the part, and it's a very specific part, and there's exactly one part one thermostat that would fit my engine and work in my engine, and it's all the way back in Linden, Utah, which is about 10 minutes away from where I live. And so, which means it's about 2 hours away, hour and a half, 2 hours away from Fillmore. And so they said, we have a guy going to Salt Lake to go get us an engine. We'll have him stop by and grab it, but that has to be tomorrow because he's going tomorrow, okay? It is the 22nd of December. No. Yes. 22nd of December, Sunday, when I go and get that thermostat. So I stayed at a hotel there. Fortunately, there was one like 5 minutes down the road. And so I just, meandered my car back down there as slow as possible, trying to not let the engine overheat on the way to the Quality Inn that I stayed at overnight, and just stayed by myself in the hotel. And yeah, nothing to report there. It was just, frustrating, whatever. And so then I called the next morning to check and make sure that they're getting my thermostat. And the guy on the phone is like, he's I think my age or maybe a little bit younger. He acted a little bit younger. He seemed really mature. And I think I had woken him up from my phone call. And I was like, hey, I just want to make sure that, I just want to check up on my thermostat and see if like that's on route, or if your guy's heading to Salt Lake right now or whatever. And he's like, oh yeah, I just forgot. And he like made all these excuses. I was like, you forgot, didn't you? And I was like, yeah, just friendly reminder. Like, I still have an 8-hour drive left. Like, and Christmas Eve is tomorrow, And so anyways, he got a little snippy with me. I was trying to be nice, but I was like, I think you forgot. And he was like, we've been doing this for a long time. I was like, but you forgot my part. And you forgot that like there's a girl that's stranded in Fillmore. So anyways, he was annoying, and not the owner of the shop. I think it was like the son or something. And so then finally he's giving me updates. I'm like trying to get updates from him. I'm like, do you not know how to run a business? Like, you gotta give updates. You gotta like keep me in the loop. Like, you gotta, if things change, you gotta let me know. Like, we gotta know some stuff here. You know what I mean? And so then the guy has to go to Salt Lake, so it's like 4 hours round trip. They finally come back with the thermostat at 5 p.m. on December 23rd. Okay, they have 5 or 6 p.m. I don't remember. But they get it all replaced. It takes them about an hour to replace the thermostat, and then they go take it for a test drive. And so then I stop by the Maverick to get gas and fill up and stuff. And I'm on the road, okay? And things are working okay so far. And yeah, so that's been changed. I'm driving, things are going okay. It overheats. My engine overheats again. And so I pulled over, I called my dad, and he was like, just let it go. Like, just keep driving through and see if that dial goes back, and see if it releases that fluid and cools it off again. Ideally, it's supposed to cool it off before it ever gets over the hot point, but it's a new thermostat. I don't know if something needs to be like broken in or whatever. So he's like, just keep driving it. Like, be cautious, of course, but like, don't just pull over and stop every time. See if it corrects itself. I was like, okay. And so I did that a couple times. It corrects itself. I stop, but it did overheat like 2 or 3 more times. Then I stopped for gas and potty in Flagstaff, Arizona, still about 2 hours away from my home in Arizona. And it overheats like over a dozen times on that 2-hour drive. So I was like, okay, this is happening a lot, and it's happening frequently. And so I pulled over 3 more times, lifted up the hood, let it cool off. Fortunately, it was cold enough outside. And so I was like, maybe if we let the heat escape, and then, I waited for the fan to stop working, because that fan in my car was working overtime. Let me tell you, to a point to where like when I turned my car off, it would sound like the engine was still on, because that fan was going full blast, full speed ahead. And it took at least like 10 to 15 minutes each time to get the fan to stop. And so I figured once the fan, not the little, it was a big fan. Once the fan stopped, then it was cool enough that it like still didn't need to keep overheating, or didn't need to keep like cooling it off and stuff. So I pulled over 3 more times. I got home for Christmas at 4 a.m. on Christmas Eve. Okay. And what's crazy about this whole thing is like for the last 6 months, I had been looking at other cars and I'd been shopping because my original plan was to trade in my car before it hit 100,000 miles so that I could get maybe a little bit more for it, because it is a luxury vehicle, has the heated seats, has the sunroof, it's a big engine, it's kind of a bigger sedan, like the back seats are really spacious, the trunk is really spacious, things like that. Like, it is a luxury vehicle at the end of the day. And so I was at like 94,000 miles, and so I wanted to try and trade it in for a lower mileage car before I hit 100,000. And so I had like been searching, I had test driven a couple cars that were just kind of lame and kind of in poor condition. You know, they weren't great, but I also wasn't really trusting the people selling them to me. They didn't have like Carfax. They didn't have the few clean titles that I was able to find in the state of Utah. They didn't have a Carfax or like a history of like the car's maintenance and stuff. And I have a mechanic guy here that I like and will text every now and then. And he's like, I'm seeing red flags everywhere. Sounds like a lot of red flags. And I was like trying to ignore him, but he's right about these kinds of things. So I was shopping around, and car shopping super discouraging. If you're looking for a car and you kind of are trying to do it sooner rather than later. I wasn't like desperate or in a pinch at the time. But like it still was stressful because I was like, I'm racking up miles every day, you know? And so then I have been calling my dad and talking stuff out with him. And I eventually decided, like very soon before my Christmas trip, that I was just going to keep the car, and the money that I was going to spend to pay the rest for a newer car, for a lower mileage car, I should say, I was just going to spend, I figured I would spend less money fixing it than trying to get a new car. Because cars with a clean title and low enough mileage for it to be worth it for me are like $20,000 around, give or take, with the clean title and all that stuff. And my car, I paid $17,500 for it. And so I'm like, my car is worth more than your like little crappy, Ford Focus or whatever, okay, or whatever brands I was looking at. And so I was like, I think I'm going to keep my car. I really do like it. I bought it with the plans to kind of drive it into the ground. And so all of this thought process and conversation was had before the December Christmas debacle of 2024, okay? So my dad calls me on the way home as I'm driving home, and he's like, leave your keys out on the countertop and your mom and I will take it to Horton's the next day. Because we were going to have them look at it, because one of the times my dad called me, he was like, okay, well, clearly it's not a thermostat issue because you have a brand new thermostat and it's still overheating. So it's possible the other one could have been bad, but I'm skeptical of that, to be honest. But there's no way of knowing because everything was a mess. So I get in at 4 a.m. and they take it. We have Christmas, blah, blah, blah. It was great. It was a very good Christmas. And we get a call from Hortons. I think it was the 26th. Yeah, because it wasn't on Christmas. But we get a call from Hortons on the 26th. He's like, so your engine is a mess. And I told him, like, I need my brakes replaced. I need a couple other things replaced. And he was like, here's the thing. We're not going to spend the time and you spend the money to fix your brakes. You need to get a new car. Like, your engine is a mess. It's all over the place, blah, blah, blah. So we hang up that call, and my dad, brother, and I get on 3 different laptops and start looking at cars in the area because I cannot drive it back to Utah. And so, and I feel like the car market, from what I was researching and stuff, the car market's a little bit better in Arizona than in Utah. It seems like it was easier to find a clean title car than a used title car. So we're searching, we find one that looks promising, and we get a call from Hortons again, like 5 minutes later. And he's like, so I did some searching and turns out your car has an extended warranty on the engine specifically for the exact issues that you're having. And so he's explaining it to my dad, and I'm just like watching his face. I'm just staring at his face, and I'm just hearing my dad's side of the conversation. And so my dad gets off and he explains, he's like, so God is good. And he's like, so the warranty was extended because I didn't even have a warranty on my car. Like any warranty I would have had would have been long expired. So the warranty that was on the engine was 5 years or 60,000 miles. Pretty standard for most of the warranties that I've heard of for like any car. But it got extended on my car, on a Kia Cadenza, and then a couple other models of Kias to 15 years or 180,000 miles. And so if your car meets all the criteria, then you can get a new engine. And so Hortons was like, you need to take it to Kia. I guarantee you they'll give you a new engine. And so we were like, okay, great. So we go and get my car from Hortons. It's reeking of like all sorts of toxic fluid chemicals and stuff at this point. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, I'm like driving it around the corner to the Kia dealership, and it's like, it's smelling really bad and it's not good, and it overheated again. But it was just around the corner, and so things were okay. And so we take it to the guy. We meet a man by the name of Josh, and I love Josh. I think he's from Tennessee and working at the Arizona courtesy Kia. If Josh ever listens to this, I love you, Josh. So we meet him and we give him the dealio, and he was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry that happened. And we had printed out, or Hortons had printed out the warranty for us. And so it's like a small textbook. And so we take it, hey, we show them, and it's like, here's what's happening. This is happening. This is happening. This is happening. This is happening. And he's like, okay, so what we have to do is we'll hold on to it and we'll do an engine block test, which I Googled, and it is where I think they take the engine out, or no, I think they leave it in. They put it like almost on a block. I think it's actually like a literal block of some kind, and they pour like fluids through it and see how it goes, if it's behaving properly, if it's doing all the stuff it's supposed to do. And so he calls and he's like, yeah, so your car failed the engine block test, so for sure it meets the criteria. And then he's like, we want to look at your Carfax to make sure that this didn't happen because of neglect, because it's a car dealership and they're trying to not have to pay for things, obviously. My Carfax is great. I've had many oil changes, any problems I've had fixed, like all the electronics has been replaced. I've had my brakes replaced. I've had the tires. I've had them rotated. I've had them aligned, all the things. Like, I'm very on top of my car stuff. And then I hadn't had an oil change for a while because Jiffy Lube has lost my trust for life. And also my oil was leaking so much that I was having to fill it once a week. And so I kept like a 5-liter bottle of engine oil, and I was checking it once a week to make sure it was high enough. And so I didn't go get my oil replaced because I'm filling it with fresh oil like at least every 2 weeks. So I know the oil is fresh. I know the filter needs to be changed, but I was like, well, we're going to wait on that because I need to find someone trustworthy. So my Carfax is good and I pass. And Josh, he was so great. He was like, I like called him a couple times, like just to follow up, because it took a long time for them to get back to us. And I was like, I gotta go back to Utah. And he called me. He's like, just want to give you the update. He's like, we should be getting the results back from the Carfax, see if you're getting approved for the new engine, stuff like that. He called me. He was like, then he called me again shortly after that last call and was like, you got it. You get the free engine. Oh, he's like, literally happened like 20 seconds ago. I had to call you. I was like, thank you so much. That's such a huge answer to prayer. And I'm so grateful. And so they get to keep my car. And then we go and we talk about like a rental car situation. They had their own fleet that they could use, but I couldn't go out of state with that one. But they had a partnership with Enterprise, which was just down. This dealership is in an auto mall. So it's just a bunch of different dealerships. And then there's an Enterprise right there. They have a partnership with Enterprise. I'm sure all of the dealerships in that area have a partnership with them. And so Enterprise, I could take wherever I wanted and had no limits and stuff like that. So anyway, so we get the approval. My dad and I go get the rental car like an hour later. And so get the car, they keep it, and they predict that it's gonna be a couple weeks because they have to order the parts. So they did the engine block test, and then they found all these other issues. And so I keep getting calls from Josh. He's like, so this is wrong, and this is wrong, and this needs to be replaced. So you have something, and I know more about cars than I've ever wanted to know in my life. So you have something, you have fuel injectors, which do what they sound like. And so he said 3 of mine need to be replaced. I have 6 because it's a 6-cylinder engine. And he's like, for sure 3 of them have to be replaced. He's like, we'd recommend doing all 6 because you don't have any labor cost. And so if one of those goes out, you're in bad shape again. And then we have to take the whole engine apart. So because they're replacing the entire engine and that labor cost is included, then I have no labor costs on like anything else related to inside the vehicle, pretty much. And so he's like, recommend just replacing all 6 of them because then they're brand new and you don't have to pay for labor. You just have to pay for the parts. And I was like, great, let's do it. And so then we told him like, oh, my third brake light's been out. Can you fix that? Since that's kind of a whole situation. And then my sunroof needed to be like lubricated and cleaned and stuff like that because it wasn't closing. And I do like to use it. It is fun in the summertime. And so we had them do that. And then I needed my front brakes replaced anyways. And so I was like, let's do that. And then, and then he calls, he's like, yeah, there's some warping on your passenger side axle. He's like, again, no labor costs. So it's just replacing that. I was like, great, let's do it. And then he calls me while I was in Utah and he's like, so we found that some of your coils on your gaskets are just kind of falling apart. And he's like, 3 of them or 2 or 1 of them needs to be replaced or something like that. Oh, sorry. It was the fuel injectors. 1 fuel injector needed to be replaced, but I replaced all 6 of them. And then with the coils, the gasket coils, he's like, 3 of them are kind of starting to fall apart. And so he's like, I want to be sensitive of your budget. He was, it sounds like he's trying to just like get me for more stuff, but like I wanted a brand new car by the end of this. So even if it was like a ploy, I don't think so. Josh is a good man. He's good people. So he genuinely, you can usually tell when someone's trying to like, when a car dealer person is trying to get money from you, like it's kind of easy to tell. You can see it in their eyes. You can hear it in their voice. And Josh is a good man. So he's like, I want to be sensitive of your budget. He's like, well, for sure need to replace the 3. We don't have to replace all 6, but I wanted to like let you know and stuff. I was like, okay. I was like, how much are these going to cost? Let me do some math. And so I was like, let's just replace all of those too. And I told him, I was like, my goal at the end of this is to get basically a brand new car because I'm tired of having issues. I'm tired of being stranded on the side of the road in the middle of nowhere. And like, I just want a new car. I was like, just go ahead and do it and all this stuff. So anyways, I'm driving my little Chevy Malibu, great car, highly recommend. It's not nicer than my car, but great car. It functions as it should. So the road trip, the drive back to Utah was really nice. The drive back to Arizona was really nice. And they get it fixed in 3 weeks and it worked out perfectly. My parents are serving a mission in Italy. They're actually leaving this weekend. So if you're listening to this on time, they're leaving this Friday and Saturday. I'm picking them up from the airport, or not this Friday, this Saturday? Yeah, this Saturday. And I'm taking them to the airport. They're going to Italy for 2 years, poor things. And so but they were having their farewell talk the weekend after my car was done. And so my car got done around like Tuesday before that. And this was like a couple weeks ago that this all happened, by the way. So that's why I'm telling the story. It is actually pretty fresh. But I was ill last week and then super overwhelmed and busy the week before. So it lines up. So I asked Josh, I was like, is there any grace period you can give me for my rental car. And I was like, I'm happy to pay for the extra days because I've been driving it for like 3 weeks, you know what I mean? And I didn't have to pay a dime of it. But I was like, if we can extend this for a few more days, if you can give me any kind of grace period, I'm happy to pay the rest because I totally understand, like, you know, we can't just hold on to a rental car inevitably while a perfectly good car is fixed and repaired and stuff like that. Like, Kia shouldn't have to pay for those extra things. So I was like, I totally understand. I will pay for the extra days and stuff. Blessed Josh got me 2 more days. And so I only had to pay for the one day, the Friday. We brought it back Saturday. And I got my car. He gives me all the paperwork. I signed a bunch of paperwork. It is a small packet. Or not a small packet. It's a big packet. It's a big packet in my car of all of the repairs, all of the things. And it all cost me, you guys, $4,085. Now, $4,000 is a lot of money to me, but not when you account for the fact that my engine that I got for free is a $13,000 engine. So I got a brand new engine for free, no labor costs, basically a brand new car for $4,000, and it's a luxury vehicle with 100,000 miles on it, but it's like brand new. So it does have almost 100,000 miles on it, but like I said, it's like brand new because all of its insides are fresh. They're brand spanking new, brand new. Like, what took them so long is just waiting for the parts, all of the parts to arrive. They can't just like start on one and then do the others as they come. Like, they have to do it all in one go. It only took them a couple days to replace all that stuff, actually. But yeah, it just kind of took a while for the orders to be put in and for the parts to arrive, all that stuff. So brand new, because again, my car is a luxury vehicle. I didn't know that when I bought it either, for the record. I'm not like, now I'm a little snooty because I've been driving a luxury car, but I didn't know at the time. I didn't put it together like, oh, this is a luxury vehicle. It just met all of my standards. It had low mileage, it had a big enough engine, it had, you know, nice little bells and whistles. The sunroof, I wasn't looking for that. It just has it. And I test drove it and I loved it. I was like, this feels good. This feels right. And then that's not including the 3 weeks. I also didn't have to pay for the 3 weeks of the rental car because that's about like $40 a day. And that adds up to a couple $100, you know what I mean? So anyways, brand new luxury car for $4,000. And it's crazy looking back on it because like it's been such a journey with this car, and the warranty is there because they know, because it's an aluminum engine. And so it kind of just fell apart essentially. And that's the thing, like I'm not hard on my car. Like I said, I get oil changes. I get the tires rotated. I do all the stuff, like all the maintenance-y, like as you go stuff. I'm usually pretty good about it, you know? But like it was just falling apart. And so like the worst thing that I do to it is I drive it, you know, and like my coolant was leaking a lot too. And so anyways, it was just a hot mess express. And so it's just crazy how all of these things happen and how like frustrating and discouraging and expensive all of this was. And then this happened and it's like the best thing that could have happened. And so now all of a sudden looking back, all of those hard moments with my car like turned out to be a huge blessing, and not deciding to not trade in the car and then having all that tragedy happen and then having to buy a new car, but then not having to buy a new car. Like it's all was just a huge, huge blessing. If you're a religious person, my prayers do not get answered this quickly. Okay. Like most of ours don't. Most of our prayers do not get answered like this, but like, holy crap. And it was fast and I qualified for it and all of the things. Like I have never had such a big weight off my shoulders in my life. Like I almost like when we got the news from the Horton guy, I think his name is Horton, actually. I think the owner is the one who called us. And my dad was like, get ready, we're going to the dealership and stuff. And so I hopped in the shower really quick. I threw on some clothes. I like started crying in the shower because I was like, thank you so much. Like it has been a journey. I went through that kind of fast, despite how long this episode is going. I went through that kind of quickly, but like it has been several years of like a saga to this car. And like I said, I do love this car. It's the first car that's like officially mine. I've always had a car, but they've been like hand-me-downs, or or I shared them with a sibling. Nothing wrong with that. I'm not complaining about that at all. But this is the first car that's like in my title. I'd spent a ton of time researching it, or researching other cars, researching what I want, things like that, making a decision, things like that. Like, this was my first big like adult purchase. And again, I decided to invest a little bit more upfront with low gas mileage car, a nicer car, and spend a little bit more upfront in the hopes that it would last me 10 years or whatever, you know what I mean? So super excited. The car has been driving great. Now I just need to I have some Dawn dish soap, and I need to like go and like scrub the asphalt, because there is a huge oil stain under my, in my parking spot, which the stupid guy who lives below me has been harassing me about, but then not harassing the people on the first floor smoking weed all the time. Anyways, that's a whole thing. Maybe we'll have a apartment drama episode later, because that's a whole other thing. But yeah, so like I gotta go clean that spot off, and try and just get it nice and clean as possible. And I'll maybe call like a detailer. I have a couple detailers that I've had detail my engine before. And I'll maybe see if like they can use like a heated pressure washer to just kind of get it off. Because I'm going to plan on soaking it with Dawn dish soap and stuff. Because that's the car dealership guy, Josh, my homie, actually recommended doing that. He's like, some people use sawdust. I was like, okay, I don't want to do that because that's going to look gross. And so he's like, I'd recommend some dish soap. So I'll get like maybe some like steel wool or something, or some kind of aggressive scrubby tool, and let the dish soap like sit for a little bit when I have a free moment, which I've not had. And then I'll kind of scrub it off, and then see if the engine detailers can maybe just do a little spray with their special degreasy formula thing or something. So anyways, I wasn't planning on the whole episode being about my car, but I had to talk about it. I'm still reeling from it. Again, I got my car back like 3 weeks ago. We're going to look up a calendar. We're going to pull up a calendar, because we're in the middle of February, but January was like 8,000 years long. So everything is weird. Yeah, I got my car back officially on January 18th, because my parents' farewell talk was the 19th. And so I went to their church, and then I drove back on Monday, and then had a crazy week after that. So yeah, I got my car back 2 weeks ago, and drove it back to Utah over the weekend. And so anyways, just a huge answer to prayer. Make good choices. You will be blessed. Even if you're not a religious person anymore or whatever, like just be a good person, and you'll get blessings from it, because it's so nice. Like, I haven't had to check my fluids. I have checked them just to see where they're at, because I did have to drive it back, but I maybe don't have to keep buying engine oil over and over and over again, and coolant and all that stuff, because that's expensive too. And so it's just been nice. And it like, the getup is going again, because again, it's a 6-cylinder engine, and so it has some power to it. It has like 300 horsepower, but like, it would not accelerate very well. And now it's accelerating great. Even in eco mode, I have like a bunch of different drive modes and stuff. The eco mode is obviously more fuel efficient. And so I mostly stay in eco mode, because I don't drive. I don't like have to commute very much for work or anything. And then sport mode is really nice. I really like sport mode. When I drive home or for long distances, I go on sport mode, because it's awesome. And then comfort mode is also really nice, but it just chews through the gas like nobody's business. And so anyways, I'm just gonna end it there, and I'll talk about other stuff next week. But that is the car saga. I had to share that, because it's wild. It is wild. And like, again, it's been years and years of trauma and buildup and stress and financial burden. My parents have been generous enough to help me a lot with that. I'm so grateful, and I feel really guilty about it actually, but I'm so grateful though. And the $4,000 that I just paid for my brand new car, I paid for, and things like that. But like a $13,000 engine, you guys, that means like if I had to pay for that engine, I would have had to replace the fuel injector still. I would have had to replace the coils. I did need my front brakes fixed, and I like to make sure they're fresh before like the snow hits. Snow has not been hitting, which I am not mad about, but I'm always a little nervous. It's front wheel drive, but it still doesn't handle super well in the snow. It's just not what that car is made for. And so I like to have at least fresh brakes and stuff. So I for sure needed brakes. Like that would have been $20,000 to fix this car. Or get a new car, but I can't afford a $20,000 car either. Like I couldn't afford a new car either. And if they had found all these issues, who knows if I would have gotten what I would have gotten for it, because my last Kelly Blue Book I was only going to get like $8,000 for it. And so anyways, like $4,000 for a brand new car that I love, and that I enjoy driving and I'm proud to drive. People are like, oh yeah, that's a nice looking car, you know? And not that that's important, but it is nice. You know, it's nice to drive a car that you like and that works. And so oh my gosh, you guys have no idea. It's been so nice, and it's been handling well. And yeah, cars are so dumb. Cars are so dumb. And so it's just nice. And I have to have one. Like public transportation in Utah is not good. Like if I was in New York and we had subways, or Europe, their subway system's really good. Their public transportation's pretty solid. Things are a little bit closer together too in New York and the big cities and stuff like that. I would absolutely take public transport. But public transport, like I could walk just as fast almost. Not like all the way to work at BYU, but like, it's not efficient. It's not efficient, and I have a tight schedule all the time. So, anyways, I just had to share. What a journey. Make good choices. It's worth it. And I'm so grateful. Cause again, it's not like I'm driving a $5,000 engine car. It's a $13,000 engine car. And so I have 6 of stuff when a 4-cylinder car only has like 4 of stuff, you know? So anyways, cautionary tales, but there's silver lining at the end. I'm just so grateful. I'm so grateful for the support of my family. My brother and my dad have been my saving graces for these, and they've done a lot of research for me and with me and stuff. And so, it's so nice. So I had to talk about it because I don't ever have like super exciting things to talk about in my life, but that was an exciting thing. And so anyways, that's all. I'll talk about some of the cool things I got to do a couple weeks ago. I got to mix a Broadway legend. So that was super exciting. I'll talk about that. And then I'll talk about like the people there. We'll also talk about the Super Bowl because I have opinions, of course. And yeah, so I'm excited for next couple episodes. Hopefully my voice will be in a little bit better shape. I'll cough less. I did try to turn away when I coughed. I don't want to go and edit them out. I have a lot of stuff to do in addition to editing this. So sorry if that's annoying to you, but had to share the car saga of 2024, 2025. It's actually more than that, but you know what I'm saying. I will see you guys next week. Thank you so much for listening. I'll try to be more consistent, but those of you that listen, whether you catch up or whether you follow it immediately or whatever, I'm just so grateful that you listen at all. Please tell your friends if they just want some entertaining something to listen to while they clean or while they're driving or whatever. Please share my podcasts. It's a lot of work and I don't get paid for it right now. So I'd love it if you'd share it with some friends and be like, this is so funny. Tiffany's so great and you should listen to her. But yeah, I'm excited for future episodes and have some fun plans for that as well. And I will see you guys next week. Bye. Remember to tune in every Wednesday for Well-Rounded Wednesday, and please leave a rating and a review.